Good day. Let's talk about population and sample. By definition, population is a collection of data whose properties are analyzed. It contains all subjects of interest. Sample is a part of population of interest. This is the population where contains all subject of interest. An example, an example is if you want to study experiences of student in online classes, all student enrolled in the university, so that is the population. And you have your sampling technique to obtain your sample. An example is from all students of the university, you only ask 200 students. So the 200 student is the sample. The sample is part of the population. Take note that the sample must represent the population because whatever conclusion we have in the sample will be reflected to population. So it is a must that the sample must really represent the population. Why is sampling important? Let me answer this in a picture. This photo is my favorite food. That is champorado. So if you have a champorado, you want to know if it tastes good. So what will you do? You will get a spoon and scoop one scoop of it and then you taste it. That one scoop of it is the sample and the entire dish is your population. To make sure that the one scoop really represent the population, you're going to stir it. If you will not do that, the tendency is yours one scoop does not represent the population. So what will you do? When you taste it, ay tabang paman, utang ka og kamay or sugar. Ay tabang pamang sugar na sad. And then pag abot sa bottom, maka-diabetes na. So it's very important to have a technique to make sure that your sample really represent your population. Other than that, if you do not know the idea of sampling, and then you want to taste your champorado, what will you do? You will get the whole population. And then your mother will ask, where is the champorado? And you will say, I taste it. And you taste the whole population of champorado. So that is the idea of how important is sampling. And on the other hand, if you want to go to the hospital and you want to run a blood test, only a sample of your blood is tested, not the entire blood. So that's impossible. So that's how important sampling is. Other than that, sampling is also important in research because there are constraints. One constraint is time. Imagine if your population is the entire people in the Philippines, that is 104 million Filipinos. So you have time constraint, and I think your your life maybe is not enough to interview the 104 million Filipinos. So and every day, if you have an inclusion criteria, so every day there is an additional person for your criteria. So it's hard to have to interview the population. For the first, you have time constraint, and also you have the budget constraint. You will interview the 104 million Filipinos, and then imong bahandian na murag dihado jud kaayo. So budget constraint. And you also have the kind of data. Sometimes in research, you are not focused on the number of people, but the kind of data you want. It is an in-depth information for a certain or few people. Like in a feminology, you will have a interview where you are focused on their life experiences. So there are constraints. So that is why sampling is important to the research, and the sampling idea is also important to our lives. So that is sample and population. And if you have questions, you may comment or you may ask me in our GC. Have a good day, and that's all for today. See you to our next discussion. Goodbye, class. Thanks for listening.